Hello everybody, it's Chloe. Okay, this tag is driving me nuts. I can't seem to get it through in a timely manner. Hopefully this is the last time I have to try. Okay, so let's focus. I'm really grateful to Imogen Walters for putting together this Oracle Obsessed tag. The problem is I am really obsessed with oracles and I have too many. So I'm trying to limit how much I'm putting out there with this. Otherwise, this video gets way too long. So let's just get with the first question and continue. What was my very first deck? My very first deck was Druid Animal Oracle by Philip and Stephanie Cargam. It has 4 dragons and then a bunch of well-known traditional animals from the Celtic lands and the UK and Europe. It's very vivid, detailed artwork. This is Will Worthington's, and he is an expert in the Celtic and European symbolism of things. Rich, lovely, just grabs you and pulls you in. Love his artwork. I did trim this, so this is not necessarily how you'll get it out of the box if you get this deck. I've edged it as well with silver to match the Awen symbol, and it is reversible, as you can tell. This deck is my go-to deck. It speaks to me on every level. It really helped me get out of the tarot box, so to speak, and being of a kind of I'm not Wicca based. I'm kind of like a mixture of druidry and almost hedgy craft and fae leaning type stuff. I work with Mother Earth and nature spirits, so the druid stuff kind of speaks to me, but I'm not really into the elemental system. So I find so many decks have the elemental system that I just try to adapt it to the land, sea, and sky, with fire being the blender of the realms. So I'm having to recreate almost every deck I get anyways into this alternative kind of cosmic way of viewing the world. So, but so far, I really still love this deck despite having the 4 elemental dragons and whatnot going on. The rest of the deck works very well for my frame of mind and the cosmos I tend to work with. So let's move on to the next question. What is your current favorite? Oh my gosh. I have like something like 50 decks. Just in oracles, I believe. And some of them I don't even have out, so this is really hard. Out of the ones that I have available, I must say that I collect, if it says Lucy Cavendish, I'll probably buy it, period. I really favor her decks, and the first one I owned of hers was the Dragon Fae Oracle of the Dragon Fae. I have a first edition, so it has that kind of older look to it. Almost like planks of wood or like old leather bound type thing. And this deck reminisces me, it was like a gateway deck to getting away from Doreen Virtue deck. The first 2 decks that she made, I only like her what I call her elemental decks, Doreen Virtues. I have her Healing with the Fairy, and I have her magical or mystical dolphins and mermaids and dolphins deck, and I also own her. My only unicorn deck is her unicorn deck. Now, I agree they're very light and white lightery, but I do find that they're good for working with those who are a bit of muggles. They're like kind of open to spiritual things, but they're very one book faith type leaning, like Christian or something along those lines, and they lean towards angels or whatever else. I'm not an angel-y person. The closest I get is to those elementals system type decks, or not system, but elemental leaning theme decks that she made. This one took me away from her, basically. I keep them around because I find those decks are good with kids and younger people who are still very impressionable. But I really love Lucy's because I find her decks more balanced. Now, what this deck has in common with those first 2 decks, the mermaids and dolphins and the Healing with Fairies, is the edging border has the colors mixed in from the main art work mixed into the edge on the borders, okay? Also, in this first deck here, she's used multiple artists for the deck, and that is another thing that Doreen Virtue does with hers, with those first few decks. That's where it all ends. This deck is far more balanced. It's not quite so let me give you a hug, although there is a few cards like that in here. Again, there's a bit of dark and light, and I find some of the cards challenging, and some of them just, oh, they really make me rethink things and face things. Not that you can't get a pretty good depth reading from Doreen Virtues, but it is coming from a more, what I call a lighter perspective, and that's not really my way. But I keep those for when I know I'm going to have an event or be more doing, say, a booth event where I might meet more of muggles than people who are of a more earth spiritual or slightly darker bent lifestyle, or thoughtways, pathways, whatever, who want something with more depth and challenge. Okay, so the other one that I would say favorites wise, again, this is hard because I tend to work with some of my decks seasonally. So my Halloween Oracle, I work with during the fall, winter, and occasionally in the summer, because I get like Halloween and July events or Dark Night, and it's a private party, so I'll bring a theme as a theme deck for sometimes. I do find that you can read some of those any time of year if it's pulling or appealing to the person that you're reading for. So the one that I find I can read pretty much year-round that has a really nice blend to it as well is the Oracle of the Shapeshifters. This is one of my favorite decks. I do pull it out often. And I love it because it has, again, a good blend of light and dark, shadow and light. Shadow and Light is actually one of the ones I mostly just use during... the Oracle of Shadow and Light is one of the ones I mostly just use during the fall and winter as well. This is a good all-arounder. I love the cardstock on this one. It's really bendy and it always gets back into shape. A lot of people are like, oh, it's so light and it's definitely going to like warp. And so, no, this thing is kept shape. I shuffle it in all kinds of funky ways. And even if it gets bent a bit, it always goes back to shape. It has a lot of cool animals and beings in these cards. There's a couple cards like, oh yeah, Poe's Brave Flight. I love the meaning and how it works, but if this is Poe, this should have been ravens, right? But the steampunk look and some of the other things going on here, it works when you read the book and see what's going on. I love the dragons. And this is a Jasmine Beckett Griffith illustrated deck. Some people really like her artwork and some people just don't. And I find that I like it. So, yeah, this is one of my favorite decks. Although I really like my Brian Fouds as well. He's very well-known deck. Okay, so let's move along. What are my most used? Oh my god, that's another one. That's so hard. I really try to spread myself, and that's why I have some seasonal ones. But let's just focus on the ones I'm studying right now for most use, because I am trying not to use my other ones as much while I'm studying to really help get these in my brain. This is the Voices of the Trees. I know this is more of an OHAM set, but it is one of the ones I'm studying right now. This is Mickey Mueller. I love this lighter parchment look. It has 4 seasonal trees, and then the OHAM in a larger set form right there. That's all the OHAM in the deck. And a type of symbol there. I know there's a term for that, but I can't think of it. So this set has the Celtic view name right next to the tree or plant name. And then on the bottoms, you have the key terms associated to that. And in the picture itself, you have the shape of the few that you're working with. Right there. Okay. So yeah, I really like that. Okay. And that was the Voices of the Trees. It's really helping me to get some of the meanings more down than I've ever had them before. So oops, sorry, I gotta back this up a little. All right, so the other one I'm working with the most right now is the crystal reading cards. I have a full video, but I'll just show a couple here. Again, this is when I'm studying. This is my only crystal card deck. It took me a long time to pick one to explore. And I like a lot of things about this. The color, the current movement of some of the rays you can see in the background. Sorry, really speaks to me. I don't know why my video is not focusing very well right now. Looks pretty good. There we go. All right, that's enough of that. Okay, most used are the ones I'm studying, basically. All right, my least used, and actually the ones I plan to get to possibly next. I don't know. I have a new deck coming, so we'll see. My least used as of right now are my Fairy Messages Oracle. I really love the creamy backs of these. I trimmed them. The reason why they were used is they used to have like this a whole over about an inch or something with affirmations on them, and I found them too distracting. I like to burn affirmations, so I did not want to burn this artwork. All right, so this is, I forget who created this one, but the title is Fairy's Oracle, or Fairy Messages Oracle. She also has, oh, Pauline something. I can't remember right now. But this is one of my least used, although I really love this healing card. There's some of the pictures I really dearly like, the wisdom card as well. I love the art style. It reminds me, if you've seen her other work, I can't think of the titles right now in her tarot works, but she had a Witchlings deck that I didn't feel very drawn to either. But this is one of my least used. And then my other least used is the Vintage Wisdom Oracle. I love the tones. I mostly got this as a theme deck because sometimes I get formal gigs or fundraisers with a formal feel. And I wanted an art style that would match a more formal atmosphere. The sepia tones are very classic looking, that it could come from, you know, a bygone era and have some depth to it. There are key terms, but they're very short and not the most dominant thing in the picture, in what's happening. And I really like how it's set up. It's very feminine, but when I bring this deck, I usually bring one of my animal oracles that has kind of a, like my Sacred World one matches fairly well with this one, just because it looks a little bit more formal in the borders. Or I may not bring an animal one at all. I sometimes bring a Lenormand because I have like the Under the Rose. Lenormand looks really nice with this one. So yeah. Sometimes I'll let them see a list of I let them tell me what the theme of their event is, and then I'll send pictures of and let them choose what deck they want me to use. But I originally got this as a theme deck for a more formal thing, but I really like the look of it, and I want to spend a bit more time getting to know that deck in the sense of what she meant it to be, because I mostly read it intuitively. Let's see, what was next? How did you learn to read oracle cards? Well, I am if I was a, scratch that. Okay. I'm mostly an intuitive and empathic reader. So I get impressions, both physical, sometimes emotional, and basically I allow the current to speak through me. And I also get impressions literally of like actions and things that took place. So when you tend to read with a gift and not just based off of what you know about card systems or whatever, then you can read pretty much anything. You can read holding a stone in your hand if you're doing a more psychically or an intuitively inclined reading system or reading style. So the way I read oracles is actually a buffer zone between me and psychometry. Once a person touches my deck, I'm going to pick up all kinds of information on them. Part of their current is going to flow to me quicker, more directly. So for me, oracles are kind of a stepping stone approach instead of just being a psychic that just absorbs all kinds of current and flows directly back to the person. That I find some people are uncomfortable with. And I don't like doing direct psychometry either. So there you go. I do, one of the questions here talks about guidebooks, so I'll move down to that. Let's see. What do you use oracle cards for? I use oracle cards in most of the standard uses, like readings. I don't do meditation, but I do breath work, so I use them as a focusing tool. I do check-ins with nature spirits and the place that I want to do rituals or other types of workings, like connecting with Mother Earth. I'll do a divination piece to make sure the local energies and the spirits of the area are welcoming to me, or if they're not, what can I do to be allowed to work in the space in a peaceful manner. And so I use divination as an active communication device, I guess, with beings that are nonverbal. I also use it within my homeschooling with my boys. My Secret World Oracle has Roman numerals on it, so I've used it for math. Teaching Roman numerals and then trying out doing some addition and subtraction with the Roman numerals. It's kind of, yeah, like a flashcard system. I use the artwork to study different blends of say color theory type stuff in art theory type things. I share, like with the fairy tale oracle, I share basically the stories and tales they have a lot of the tales from Grimm's in here. They have some from the Christian Andersen tales and others, and you can use the artwork as a focusing tool while you're reading through the stories. And it shows quite a bit of symbolism in the cards. That helps with that aspect of it as well. And my kids like to try different art styles that they can see from my oracles, or if they were doing an animal study and we saw something out in nature, but maybe that time we didn't have our camera or one of our tablet things to take a picture, I will go, oh, well, you saw a rabbit today or deer. Here's my card that has a deer on it. You can use this as your form and then try to put in what you remember of the animal you saw earlier today if we didn't have our sketchbooks with us. That kind of thing. So yeah, I actually use my oracles in more than just spiritual uses. I homeschool with them. So moving on, how do I read the cards? Guidebook, intuitive, a bit of both. I would say simply a bit of both. If I try to see if I just instantly connect with the cards and if it flows. But if it comes from a culture or it has symbolism or animals or nature things that I am not familiar with, then I will take the time to check out different parts of the guidebooks. With certain creators, I automatically read the guidebooks because they're usually phenomenal and give me a really interesting perspective. But things like, say, my crystal reading cards, I really do need a support system with that. Although I am still trying to do some first impression type readings right now, and I'm going to be really digging into the book soon. What I tend to do is kind of read the intro to see what the purpose of the deck was from the creator and try not to read all the meanings at first. And then after I've spent some time with the deck and tried a few things maybe from if they have spreads, I want to try a little bit of that to see how I feel or if I think it might work. But yeah, so I would say simply both intuitive practices and gifts along with some reading the guidebooks as well. Let's see. Do I use spreads? Yes, for booth events, fundraisers, and anything where I need to do mini spreads or timed readings. I have certain spreads that I use so I don't have to use a timer. I know how long they take. And I know when I get to a certain point and I have a set kind of system I use to do those. I have maybe 2 spreads that I talk about in the 31 Days of Tarot that Ethne did earlier this year, 2017. You can go over to my tarot tag and look through the list of questions, find that day, and you'll see that, or maybe I'll attach it to the under description area. But mostly, when it comes to actual private readings, I will mostly kind of put out the cards to how I feel and about the question, and usually there's some kind of shape that develops, but I move it looking through the cards in allowing my intuition and the current of the person that I'm working with to guide me on what to look at and what to look for. So yeah, that's how I tend to work with spreads or not. It seems to be I work more with shapes develop, but individual set locations of cards and their meanings don't really work that well for me. Everybody always tells me my more intuitive free flow readings do so much better. So, okay. Do you use... No. Do I mix oracles with other divination systems? Yes. I sometimes mix two different tones of oracles together. I mix in Lenormand with oracles. I'm planning on mixing my crystal card readings with other oracles. Yeah. Short answer, yes. Most of the time when it comes doing tarot versus oracle, I tend to read tarot and oracles. I sometimes mix other things. Very rarely do I pull a couple oracles with a tarot. I don't really use them together too much. Unless they are a tarot that's oracle bent. Okay. In my opinion, what makes a great deck? Consistent cardstock, that is cardstock that's all the same thickness or thinness. The Heart of the Fairies Oracle has a varying thickness or thinness to the cards. I love the deck. I work with it, but I would like a more consistent cardstock overall. I love color. I like a deck that has a fairly good balance of shadow and light, although I don't always require it because when I'm doing a more intuitively bent reading, it doesn't really matter. If there's some dark stuff going on, I'm going to pick up on it, and then the cards could be what helps us figure out how to straighten things out. So if it's a lighter deck, then it could be a more, maybe they need that to help them pull out of this darker time period. But I do prefer a more balanced deck overall. I also am not fond of huge white borders outside of other borders. What's the point? And I do really enjoy when it's mostly the main artwork with maybe just a title at the bottom or even just a number, instead of having lots and lots of words all over the place. So yeah, that's what makes a better deck for me. What are the differences between tarot and oracle cards? Well, most people are going to tell you tarot is a system and it's divided up into different sections and there's certain ways you're supposed to work with it, blah, blah, blah. I actually feel that there are many different systems of oracles, and I feel that tarot is one of the systems of oracles. But I think what people are really talking about when they ask this question is, what is the difference between a system-based oracle rather than a more free flow theme-based oracle? And that would be that I feel that there isn't as much resistance to tarot versus all those others. When it comes to how the media and culture has portrayed divination through tarot in kind of a negative light and a cultural bias, that it's like, say if you come from a predominantly Christian culture, you'll hear things like divination is evil, it's sinful, you're advised against even looking at, touching at that kind of thing according to your faith and how strictly you follow it, or it's a challenge to your faith, or it's threatening to, like, you're going in a pagan path or whatever, those kind of ideas. But I actually find that when you use an alternative system like oracles or even a structured oracle, you find less resistance to listening to what is being brought up and possibly any advice or ideas of how to proceed with the possibilities that are around you. So that to me is the main difference, is how people perceive tarot versus other oracle systems or oracle themed decks. Okay. Do you have any unusual decks. Yes, I have one. It is called the Witchery Oracle. I have done a video on it. I will just show a couple cards and move on. This deck is a photo collage. All but one card is original to the creator of this deck. She's just called the Witch. She's a Canadian lady, and again, I have a video to this. I really love the deep colors. I've always wanted some kind of deck like this, but this is based off of the Lenormand, although I'm finding that I like working with it as kind of an oracle with deep tones. This deck is about half traditional Lenormand's titles and symbolism, and then a certain percentage is either traditional titles with non-traditional picture symbolism, or non-traditional titles, non-traditional pictures, that kind of thing. So yeah, I really like it. I got it at the Northwest Tarot Symposium, and it is a self-published deck that she hand put together. Okay. What is my current deck crush? I will have to say that it's the Fairy Tale Oracle. I really love how this was put together. I love the vivid tones and colors, but I have an oracle coming. I believe it's called the Oracle of the Unicorns that I'm really looking forward to. Mostly because I love the rich color tones that I saw in it, although it seems to have a bit of too much phrasing. I'm thinking this might be one that I trim, but we'll see. I'm supposed to be getting that within the next day or so. Let's see. If I had to choose one deck, I can't. I couldn't just choose one. I'd probably pick three, and the top two would be, the first one would be my Druid Animal Oracle. I'd probably pick a Lenormand, either the Celtic or possibly even this Witchery Oracle, because I'm liking it so much. And then the other one would probably be a Lucy Cavendish, or I don't know at this point, but it would have to be three different ones. I couldn't pick one. But top pick, Druid Animal. Always have to have that. All right, that's all the questions. Got through it. Thank you for sticking in there with me and watching the video. I really enjoy this. Thank you again, Imogen, for putting this out there. I really appreciate it, and I hope you all have a great week. Please comment, subscribe, tell me what you think, if you liked it, or if I said someone's name wrong or said a title wrong, yeah, let me know, and I'll try to put a note somewhere. Okay, thanks. You guys have a great week. Bye-bye.